for the first question in the review packet, you want to figure out which equation represents the table below, or the table above, I should say. The easiest way to do this is to use your calculator tables. Now, how do you do that? Well, you're going to plug each answer choice in to Y1. And what you're looking for is you want to see which table is going to match what is given to us in the beginning. Now, I'll show you which one's the correct answer. If you look at choice C, 2 to the x plus 1, that's going to look like this. Y equals 2 to the x. Then we want to make sure we get out of our exponent, and then plus 1. Now your graph's not going to be overly helpful here, so you want to make sure you go to your table. And some of our key points for our table were we need 3, 9, 4, 17, 6, 65, and so on. So 3, 9, 4, 17, 6, 65, and basically it just becomes a matching game as we go through the process. So the answer to number 1 is going to be C, using our calculator tables. The second question is just going to be writing an equation. So when you're depositing money into an account at a percent interest, this is what we want to think of. Y equals A times 1 plus or minus the percent, and our exponent's going to be the number of years. Now, whenever we are making money or we're earning interest, okay, our plus sign is what we're going to be looking for. So we don't want to use y equals for this. We want to use the letters they give us. So her balance is equal to the starting amount, which is 3,000 times 1 plus, now 4.2%. If we want to make it into a decimal, we have to move our decimal point 2 spaces to the left, which gives us 0.042, and then to the t. Make sure you're using the letters that were given to you in the problem. The other way you could write this is you could actually take the 1 and the 0.042 and add it together so it looks like that. Either of those two answer choices will work for this problem. In the third one, Crystal was given $3,000 when she turned 2, so that's going to become important later on. Her parents invested it at 2% interest. They want to know how much money she's going to have when she turned 18. Well, again, when you're investing money, you're making money. So the two answer choices that have minus signs are out. The next piece really is just the only difference between A and C is the 18 and the 16. Well, if she had started this account when she was born, it would be from 0 to 18. It would be 18 years. But since they started the account when she was 2 years old, the account is actually only working and making money for 16 years. So that's why we need choice A, which is 1 plus 0.02 to the 16. Okay, so be careful about how many years the problem is actually working for. In the fourth one, the value in dollars V of x of a certain car after x years is represented by the equation V of x equals 25,000 times 0.86 to the x. To the nearest dollar, how much more money is the car worth after 2 years than after 3 years? Well, this is what we need to find. We have to find what the formula or what the value of the car is after 2 years, and then what it's worth after 3 years. So 25,000 times 0.86 to the second, which gives us 18,490. When we do the same formula for 3 years, we get 15,901.40. To find how much more the car is worth, we're going to subtract it. We get $2,588.60, which rounds to 2,589. So anytime you're trying to figure out between 2 years, you're going to find the value at each of those years and then subtract them. The fifth one Some banks charge a fee on a savings account that are left inactive. The equation y equals 5,000 times 0.0 or 0.98 to the x represents the value y of one account after left inactive for x years. What's the y-intercept? Okay. This equation should be, again, because it's a minus, it's less than 1. What's popping into your head? This, whatever is in front of your parentheses, your a value, is always going to be your y-intercept. So that gets rid of the 0.98. And then, what is y-intercept really fancy for? Okay, it's fancy for our start or our initial value. So that's where we get choice C. Y-intercept is always your starting or your initial value. Number 6, Miriam and Jessica are growing bacteria in a lab. Miriam uses the growth function f of t equals n to the 2t, while Jessica uses the function g of t equals n times 4 to the t, where n represents the initial number of bacteria and t is the time. If Miriam starts with 16, she was f of t, so f of t equals 16 to the 2t. How many bacteria should Jessica start with if they want to have the same growth over time? So g of t, we know less about this formula, so it's n times 4 to the t. What our answer choices are representing is they are representing our n values. They want you to plug in each of these for n and basically see which calculator table is going to match. So the answer to this one is 4, and I'm going to show you what it looks like on the calculator. So if we go back to y equals, you want to plug in to y1 the initial equation that Miriam was using, which is 16 to the 2x. Then, if you would have plugged in A, B, or C for n, you would have realized none of those work. So what you end up with is 4 to the 4x for answer choice D. Now, if we look at our tables here, we want them to have the same growth over time. So therefore, we want them to have the same exact table. And as you can see, all the values on the table match. Therefore, they would have the same growth over time. And that's how we get choice D. 7 is another calculator table. So what you want to do is you want to match the table given to you to the calculator table. Okay, now this is pretty easy, especially if you have a newer calculator. The answer to this one is choice B, and if you have an older calculator, make sure you go y1 equals 25 and then to the t plus 1. So when you hit your exponent, if it doesn't actually make it an exponent, it gives you a little up arrow. Make sure you put the t plus 1 in parentheses, or your calculator might get confused. All right. For 8, so the population in West Africa has been 9.05 million people. The population is growing at a rate. So we know our parentheses has to be 1 plus. So right there, choice A and choice D are out. Which function can be used to find the population after 7 years from now? So you can see all the scientific notations are exactly the same. So those don't really help us. The key to this point is 3.1% when converted to a decimal gives us 0.031. So between choice B and choice C, we are left with choice C because that's the one that has 3.1% converted to the correct decimal. 9. Alicia has invented a new app for smartphones, and 2 companies are interested in purchasing a 2-year contract. Company A is offering her $10,000 for the first month and will increase by $5,000 each month. Company B is offering $500 for the first month, and it will double their payment each month from then on out. If monthly payments are made at the end of each month, for which monthly payment will company B's first exceed? Or in other words, when will company B first be worth more money than company A? Well, first, we have to write equations. So company A is going to be a linear function because it's a constant rate of change. So where y equals mx plus b. Y equals 5,000. That's our slope because that's how much money she is making each month. Now the key is the formula is x minus 1 because they tell you you're getting 10,000. They tell you that you're getting $10,000 in the first month, and then each month after that is 5,000. But you don't start counting until month number 2. And then our y-intercept, or our starting value, is that 10,000. Company B is $500 in the first month, so we still have that x minus 1 piece, and they're going to double. Whenever you are doubling something, that is an exponential function. So y equals a times b to the x. Well, what's our starting value? 500. Every month it is doubling. And then since same deal, it's not doubling until starting at month number 2, it's going to be 2 to the x minus 1. So now we want to head to our calculators. We're going to put our linear equation in the beginning. 5,000 times x minus 1 plus 10,000. And make sure you're careful on how many zeros you're putting in. Okay. Then our second one, clear out what's in there. And we're going to be 500 times 2 to the x minus 1. And again, older calculator people, you might have to do 2 with the little up arrow and then put the x minus 1 in parentheses. So if we look at our tables, you're going to see company A is bigger. Company A is bigger, 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 until all of a sudden, until we get down to this month here. And month 8 is the first time that company company B is going to be bigger than company A. So that is the answer to our question here, is it's going to take 8 months for company B to finally exceed company A. The number of carbon atoms in a fossil is given by the function y equals 5,100 times 0.95 to the x, where x represents the number of years since it's been discovered. What percent of change, or what's the percent of change each year? Explain. Well, remember, percent change comes from this piece. Now, the 0.95 is obviously less than 1, so it has to be 1 minus our percent. Well, 1 minus what is going to give us that 0.95 that we saw in parentheses? Well, that's going to be 1 minus 0.05 will give us that answer. So what is 0.05 as a percent? That would be 5%. So that's our percent change. Now you want to explain how you arrived at this answer. And you want to say something along the lines of, if 95% remains, because that number in the parentheses represents how much is left. So if 95% remains, that means 5% is lost, or 5% is changed. Okay. In the equation, A equals 1,300 times 1.02 to the 7 is being used to calculate the amount of money in a savings account. What does the 1.02 represent? Well, anything greater than 1 is growth. So that gets rid of choice A and choice C. And now you have to remember, 1.02 really came from 1 plus 0.02. 0.02 as a percent is 2%. So make sure you take that decimal and convert it back into a percent. Determine whether the table is linear or exponential. Explain. You want to find the pattern between all the y's, or in this case, all the t of x's. Well, as you go throughout the entire table, everything is minus 2.5, minus 2.5, minus 2.5. Since your rate of change is constant, it's linear. So this is a linear function because the rate of change is constant. Okay, so you want to look for anything that's adding or subtracting the same number every time to be linear. Multiplying or random rates of change will give you exponential. In 13, it's another question that is, they've given you the formula C of t equals 10 times 1.029 to the 24t. That is what's going to go into y1. And then what you want to do is take each answer choice into y2 until you find your matching tables. Right. Now I know I've showed a couple of these before, so to save a little bit of time, the answer is choice C. That's the only table that's going to match the original equation that they gave us. A student invests $500 for 3 years in a savings account that earns 4%. No further deposits or withdrawals were made. Which one does not yield the correct balance? When you are investing in a savings account, you are going to be adding in the parentheses. So therefore, that makes this one nice and easy. You can say which one does not yield. That's choice B. This is a decay function. You'd be losing money in choice B, and we know that when we invest in accounts, we make money. All right, so we have to eliminate choice B. That one does not yield what we need. Just like some of the others in 15, you are putting each of these expressions into the calculator, and you're going to match tables. Now, obviously, these are decreasing, which means the parentheses has to be less than 1. So B and D are out. If you plug each of them into your, or the last two, A and C, into your calculator, you'd find that the matching table was choice A. Graphing calculator will save you on a lot of these questions tomorrow. Consider the pattern below. 2 blocks, 4 blocks, 8 blocks. What would be better, linear or exponential? And explain. Well, your pattern is, you could look at it as +2 +4, or you could look at it as ×2 ×2. Either way, +2 +4 is not a constant rate of change. Therefore, it can't be linear. And when we have the same pattern of multiplying, that tells us that it's going to be an exponential model, because the rate of change is not constant. And you can make a reference to the fact that the pattern is multiplying by 2, and multiplying patterns lead us to exponential. But if you talk about the rate of change not being constant, then that will suffice for it not being linear and going into an exponential. 17. Anne invested $1,000 into an account with 1.3% interest. She made no deposits for 2 years. Which equation works? Well, they all have 1,000 as their y-intercept, so that's easy. When you invest, you can't be losing money, so that gets rid of choice C and choice A. Now we're stuck with the predicament again of making sure that we convert that decimal, or that percent, 1.3, into a decimal, and that leaves us with choice B. All right, we've seen a bunch of those questions. The Regents has really shown a knack for asking those types of questions. The value V of t of a car depreciates according to the function V of t equals P times 0.85 to the T, where P is the purchase price and T is the time in years. State the percent that the value of the car decreases by. So we're stuck in that 1 minus the percent area again. In this case, it's going to equal 0.85. Well, what did you have to subtract from 1 to get to 0.85? 15, or 0.15. And 0.15 as a percent is 15%. So therefore, your percent decrease each year is 15%. Okay, so that's everything in the review packet. If I could make a couple of suggestions, it would be make sure you know this formula. That seems to show up a lot, okay, as well as this, our standard exponential formula and our standard linear formula, okay, because if you can do those, that really does eliminate a lot of the confusion if you are understanding those formulas and know how to apply them. And also make sure you're aware of how to convert percents to decimals and how to convert decimals back into percents. Okay, if you can do all those things and you can do all the things in the review packet, I expect that you will be able to do very well on tomorrow's test.